Hey guys, welcome back to That Florida Feeling. I hope everybody's having a great week and is ready to celebrate the new year. I hope everybody has some fun plans to ring in 2022. Thanks guys for everybody who's liked and subscribed and followed and reviewed. You guys are simply amazing. So today I'm going to just talk about the state we've been talking about this whole podcast. I'm going to give some unique and interesting facts about Florida. Although first I want to say I agree with everybody. 2022 is definitely going to be a year for spending more time with family and bettering ourselves and doing the things that we like, because it's been a long 2 years since all this started, and I think if anything it's really taught me to really start to have fun, to really believe in yourself, to really do the things you're going to do, because life is short and it's really been proven lately. And so I know for me, 2022 is a new year that this podcast is going to get better. I'm going to focus more on my other hobbies. I changed jobs to work less hours. So that's kind of exciting. And I'm really going to focus on me. And of course on me and on you guys. So a big thank you to what we've made this podcast so far in 2021. It's only going to get better. I never expected it to actually get this big already. You guys really are amazing. I didn't really expect for 5 people to listen to my podcast, let alone the over 700 downloads and usually 20 people listening each week. And that is just amazing. And thank you so much. And through the new year, I'm going to get better equipment. I'm going to have more guests and we're going to have more fun. And, maybe there'll be a YouTube channel. That's a possibility, things like that. But the first part of this episode, I really just want to say thank you. I would not be here if you guys were not willing to listen to me ramble on about the Sunshine State and everything that makes it really, really cool, or stuff you just didn't know, or the awesome state parks. And so thank you. And thank you to all the new friends that I've made through this podcast. You guys are simply amazing. A couple shout outs to Florida on Foot. On Instagram, you are so cool, and I think it's great that you just go to all these parks and you wander around, and it's so fun to look at your pictures and your stories. So very cool. And to Florida Men on Florida Man podcast, you have been super helpful in my first year, and thank you for answering all my dumb questions and helping me to get this started and to move it on, and for the support that you guys gave me. You guys are simply amazing. Check out their podcast if you haven't. Also to Mr. History Podcast, Allie and Rachel. They've been super helpful in my first year. They're simply amazing. Thank you to my friends like Jamie and Ree for being on the podcast. For Matthew, my husband, who's been super helpful and actually pushed and encouraged me to do this. Thank you. For my mom, who got to be on an episode. That was really fun. And for all the people who's going to be on the episodes or who's going to listen, just know that this has been an amazing first year, and I can't wait to see where else this podcast goes, especially in the new year. So today we're just going to talk about the Sunshine State, because this is That Florida Feeling. So let's talk about what makes Florida give you that really fun and awesome feeling. I'm just going to talk about some Florida facts. That was my first episode, and I think that's a good way to round out the year. So first fun fact, Florida is the 3rd most populous and the 22nd most extensive and the 8th most densely populated in the 50 states of the U.S. That alone is insane. People just keep moving here, and to me that is not surprising that it just keeps growing. And there's so many cool things to do here. Fun fact, if you didn't know, Florida's capital is Tallahassee, and its nicknames are the Everglades State, the Orange State, and of course the Sunshine State. We actually only have 2 states also bordering Florida, and that is Georgia and Alabama. So if you ever hear me say that you're in Florida but you're in Lower Alabama, that's the Panhandle, and Lower Georgia, and that's towards Jacksonville. And I've got a lot of facts, guys, so I'm trying not to just blow you guys with all these fun facts. And Orlando is actually home to an entertainment center that is constructed upside down. Now you're probably like, oh, I know what that is. And that is the WonderWorks building, and that is on I-Drive. That's another fun place to do in Orlando if you're not into the amusement parks or you've already been and you want to do something else. Definitely check out I-Drive. They have the Orlando Eye and the WonderWorks building that's upside down, and just a bunch of fun places that you can go. You can even take a helicopter ride. So fun for Orlando. If you're ever there, definitely check out I-Drive. It's kind of near Universal. Side fact, they do have a Del Taco. I am totally okay with that because I love Del Taco, and if you've never tried it, it is so much better than Taco Bell. Orlando is also the city that has over 100 lakes, and that is what makes it pretty much irresistible. It's actually really cool. It's pretty much it's near Lakeland, which makes sense because it's lakes and there's like land, and so Lakeland kind of makes sense in Winter Haven. But Orlando actually has pretty much one of the deepest lakes in the state, and that's actually Lake Eola, which is kind of actually just one giant sinkhole. And its depths actually reach about 80 feet at the deepest point. So one of Orlando's really beautiful scenic points is actually just a sinkhole. Pretty interesting, right? Although I kind of also think that like most of Florida's lakes are just sinkholes, but that's just me. Another fun fact, St. Augustine has love trees. And if you don't know what a love tree is where two different species of trees grow in, on, and through one another. And there's actually a palm tree that grows through an oak tree. And thanks to the moist climate in Florida and the humidity, the palm tree soaks in the moisture and then goes through the oak tree, and then the oak tree continues to grow. And you can actually see a couple of these in St. Augustine. They're actually pretty cool, and you'll definitely know what you're looking at because you'll be looking at this massive oak tree and you're like, why are there palm fronds on an oak tree? And that's where you figure it out. It's actually pretty cool. Another fun fact about Florida, the Florida Reef is the only living coral barrier in the continental U.S. It's also the third largest in the system, right after the Great Barrier Reef and the Belize Barrier Reef. So, another fun place to visit, especially if you like scuba diving and snorkeling. The reefs are really, really pretty all along Florida's coast, but definitely that one. Definitely got to check it out. Did you know that Florida only has 2 time zones? You have Eastern and Central. And Florida has, I believe, 67 counties. And 67 counties. And only actually 9 of those sit in that Central time zone. So, it's pretty interesting. And it is fun because you'll be driving, like, when we lived in the Panhandle, it was like, oh, this is Central time zone. And we moved to Orlando, and it's like, all of a sudden, you're in Eastern time zone. And you're, like, trying to call your friends, and you're like, oh, crap, sorry. So, it's kind of interesting. Fun fact about Tampa, if you're in Tampa, or if you ever like to go to Tampa, if you're in downtown Tampa, Bayshore Boulevard is the world's longest continuous sidewalk that actually stretches 4.5 miles. And it's actually a really pretty place to walk along. There's a lot of cyclists, joggers, and tourists. You can even see dolphins and manatees if you're lucky, if you're looking in the bay. So definitely something cool to check out in Tampa. Bayshore Boulevard, it is well known, but it's definitely pretty cool that it's also the continuously longest sidewalk in the world. Let's see. The city of Jacksonville is actually named after Andrew Jackson. Kind of obvious, but kind of a cool little fact for you. The Cape Coral is actually really, really cool city. If you've never heard of it, Cape Coral is down in South Florida, and it actually has over 400 miles of waterways just within its city. So it's actually one of the world's biggest interconnected waterway hubs. And it's on the Gulf Coast, and it's also along the Caloosahatchee River. Props for me saying that right. But it's really cool. Cape Coral really is kind of like a really cool city if you ever get to go down there. And it's kind of cool because, like, it kind of reminds you of Venice, which, of course, has all the artificial waterways and the canals. And, by the way, that's Venice in Florida, not Italy, but Venice in Florida, because they kind of named it after Italy because of their waterways. But actually, Cape Coral has more. So that's, kind of cool. Florida also holds the distinction of having a woman who is actually 64. She did this in September of 2013. Swim from Cuba to Florida without a shark cage or fins. She actually completed it in 52 hours, 54 minutes, 18.6 seconds. And she actually tried it 4 times before she did it successfully. So that's kind of insane, but that's very cool that she swam from Cuba to Florida. Another kind of obvious fun fact, but Walt Disney World is the planet's most visited and biggest recreational resort. Not really surprising to you Disney fanatics, because Disney World is massive and there's so many cool things to do there. Another fun and cool thing about Fort Lauderdale, there's a bar called the Wreck Bar, and it's actually really popular, and that's because there's underwater performances by real life mermaids. You can be sitting at the bar eating and drinking, and you get a mermaid show. I think that's pretty cool. It's definitely something not a lot of places actually offer. Another fun fact about Fort Lauderdale, it has actually become an icon for one of the most LGBTQ friendly cities in America. It has one of the highest percentages of same-sex couples, and it also used to host one of the largest gatherings of trans community. Although, fortunately, that's ended within the past few years. But it's still pretty open and diverse to the population, and that's really cool. That's another fun thing about Florida. Florida's really welcoming to pretty much anybody, so it's really cool that they have that as part of their community. Another really cool fact for all of you science and NASA fans is that NASA's first communication satellite that was named Echo 1 was actually launched from Cape Canaveral in August of 1960. And it was a metallized balloon satellite acting as a reflector for microwave signals. Oh my, how far we have come. And Florida is actually the second largest tomato producing state, only behind California. I did not know that. I knew Florida was big in citrus, did not know it was equally big in tomatoes, so that's kind of cool. So a lot of your tomatoes may come from right here in the Sunshine State. There's like a lot of Florida factual. I'm trying to give you the best ones. Florida is actually a really, really cool state, and it's kind of really got something for everybody. There's a lot of stuff to do here. There's a lot of fun things. Do you know why Florida has the Florida Panther as its official state animal? That's because students throughout the state actually chose the Florida Panther as the state's official animal in 1982. That's kind of cool. They got to pick their own state animal. And I think it's cool that we picked the panther. And then the hockey team. Florida State Legislature also designated the American alligator as Florida's official state reptile. No surprise there. And that happened in 1987. And Florida's official orange juice. Florida's official drink is orange juice. Seriously, no surprise there. That happened in 1967. And Florida's state flower is the orange blossom. That was in 1909. Florida is actually home to 11 national parks, and of course many other state parks, which we've talked about a few in a couple other episodes. So that's something that you can revisit. But it's 11 national parks, obviously the Everglades being one, and Castillo de San Marco being another, in St. Augustine. Apparently Florida's average temperature is 70.1 degrees. I want to know when this happens, because even right now in December, it was 82 today. Just asking. The water temperature in Florida apparently ranges from the low 50s in winter to the high 80s in the summer, so not quite bathwater. But of course, unfortunately, when it does hit those 80s, that's when we get the red tide. So that's always not fun. The Florida does have the longest shoreline in the contiguous U.S., and that measures at 80,436 miles. Unfortunately, you can't walk on all of those miles, but you can actually walk on most of them because Florida has 825 miles of beaches. Not all beaches in Florida are created equal. The Panhandle definitely has some beautiful beaches, as well as the sugar sand towards Clearwater and down towards Naples. Unfortunately, for some reason, on the other side of Florida, it's the yellow sand and crabs. Like, I don't get it. Oh my gosh, when we lived in South Florida, there was so many crabs on the beaches for like no reason. Sorry. Side note, I did not have fun living in South Florida because the beaches were not the best. The thing is, South Florida, they have some really pretty water. In fact, the water on Deerfield Beach was super clear, and I saw all those big tuna swimming at me, freaked out and ran out of the water. So, nothing against your water, just not as pretty sand. Sorry. The longest river in Florida is actually the St. Johns River. It is 310 miles long. Lake Okeechobee is the state's largest lake, and it ranges at 700 square miles. Florida is actually home to about 7,700 lakes. Not surprising, since we have a place named Land O'Lakes and Lakeland. And what's really cool is there's actually 1,000 springs in Florida that feed these lakes, and one of the many parks you can go to, like Crystal River and Rainbow Springs. So that's really cool. Florida has the most thunderstorm activity in the country. I can totally believe that as someone who's had their appliances fried more than once. And South Florida is the only place you can find both alligators and crocodiles in the wild, and that's actually in the Everglades. And if you do want to find out more about the Everglades, I do have an episode on that. It's kind of fun. It's a long one. But it was really, really cool to learn about everything in the Everglades. There's so much more than I realized. Florida is the flattest state in the U.S. I can fully believe that, considering that there are no mountains in Florida. Apparently, another fun fact is that about 950 people move to Florida on average per day. Although lately it seems like that number is way more. And it is the second fastest growing state in the U.S. I fully believe that. Fun fact, if you are learning to drive in Florida, you will not have to parallel park on the driver's test. Gee, thanks. Should have gotten my permit in Florida. The highest point in Florida, though, after I said we don't have mountains, is Britton Hill, and is only at 345 feet. Still not comparative to a mountain. Key West is home to the southernmost point in the continental U.S., which I talked about that in my Keys episode. And Florida is home to the World Golf Hall of Fame and Museum, and that's World Golf Village right outside of St. Augustine. So if you're a golfer or love to watch golf, definitely need to check that one out. The first undersea park that was ever founded in the U.S. was John Pennekamp Coral Reef State Park. That's actually a pretty cool one. It is in South Florida. I definitely recommend checking it out. It has beautiful, beautiful waters, and visibility is amazing out there. Let's see. The cross on Pensacola Bay actually pays homage to the first Christian mass in the U.S. That was when the Spanish came, and I believe it was 1559. No, it was before 1559. Pensacola was actually the first European settlement in the U.S., and that was in 1559. So it was a little bit before that. But that is really cool that there's actually kind of a marker for that. Seaside was the world's first new urbanist town, which is like a planned community, and it's also the filming location for Truman Show that starred Jim Carrey, that was out, I believe it was in the 90s. If you listen to Overlooked Florida, you'll hear me talk about Seaside. It's actually a really cool community. Everything kind of looks the same, but they really do take pride in that town, and so it's really somewhere cool to go. It is in the Panhandle. Okaloosa Island, Navarre Beach, Gulf Island National Seashores, and Destin were all used as filming locations for Jaws 2. So the Panhandle is just a little bit famous. As well as Defuniak Springs, which is also up in the Panhandle, is home to the oldest library in the state, the Walton Defuniak Library, and it was established in 1886. That's actually kind of cool. I didn't realize that, like, you realize that, like, St. Augustine was founded first in 1565, and then Florida grew from there, but you never realize, like, the oldest of something would not be there. You'd think it would be there, and it's actually, like, all the way down I-10 towards the Panhandle. That's just kind of insane. Fun fact about the city of Milton, it was actually originally called Scratch Ankle. And if you're ever driving through the Panhandle, you will cross over something called Murder Creek. I know this because I crossed it many times going back home when we were living in the Panhandle. Did you know that Florida is also the fern capital of the world? A small town of Pearson in northeast Florida is actually the fern capital of the world. Ferns from farms are shipped all over the world that come from this area. I think that's kind of cool. I don't know why I did not expect that. Let's see. Florida is the largest producer of watermelons in the country. It also produces the most tomatoes, strawberries, and sugar. So, citrus move aside, Florida is so much more than that. Let's see, the biggest city in Florida is Jacksonville, and that's just in terms of area. And if you've ever driven through Jacksonville, you know that it seems like it never ends. There are about 17 million people that come annually to Disney World, and usually that's 45,000 people per day. The busiest days will see over 100,000, and the park will usually shut to capacity right around 2 hours after opening. I know that last part because I used to work there, and it would be insane. And it's usually around the holidays or spring break. And it would just be a sea of people, and it looked like it was never ending because it wasn't. And it looked like it was just like a wave of people constantly moving, but not really getting far at the same time. Those were some interesting days. So side note, if you do go to Disney World, maybe check out the day you're going. Busiest times usually were the holidays and spring break and then summer. So end of February is good. End of January is pretty good. Or it used to be before the pandemic. So now you have to like buy your tickets and like reserve your day, which is kind of cool. But no, that's totally a thing. And then you'd be trying to drive in to park and you couldn't move because everybody thinks that, oh, this line's open. No, I'm just a cast member trying to go to work. So that was always interesting. Let's see if I got any more fun facts for you guys. Florida is actually not the southernmost state in the U.S. That's actually Hawaii. It's further down on the map. The world's first scheduled passenger airline flight was piloted by Tommy Janis from St. Petersburg to Tampa on January 1st in 1914, which is really funny because that's literally a hop across the bay. Now you just take one of the many bridges to get there. Key West has the highest average temperature in the U.S. Not surprising since it is the southernmost. And did you know that in 1982, the mayor of Key West declared war against the U.S.? And then immediately surrendered and applied to foreign aid. Shortest war ever. Florida has only one of two naturally round lakes in the world, and the one in Florida is located in Defuniak Springs, again in the Panhandle. Probably not surprising to a lot of people, but Florida has the most golf courses than any other state. Not completely a Florida fact, but did you know that flamingos' pink color comes from the shrimp they eat? I don't know why, I just didn't think flamingos ate shrimp. Okay, that's kind of cool. Then I wonder if the babies are white. You know? Because they're obviously not eating shrimp right out of the egg. Sorry, random side question. At the Floribama Beach Bar, there is a mullet toss. No, this is not guys lined up with mullets and drinking Bud Light out of cans. It is actually thousands of people that gather to throw dead fish into the state of Alabama from Florida. Gosh, I feel like those people would all be Florida men. Yeah. I don't even know what to say about that one. Let's see. Jacksonville was once actually the winter film capital of the world, but due to its conservative residents, they disapproved of the film industry and sent everybody packing to Southern California. So think about it. Hollywood could have been Jacksonville. Ooh, that's just not a good thought. Here's your Florida man story. Florida was home to the 5th oldest tree in the world until a meth addict actually accidentally burned it down in 2012. It was 3,500 years old and 125 feet tall. Thank you, idiot. This is a fun one close to home. Clearwater, Florida has the highest number of lightning strikes per capita in the U.S. I believe that because the amount of times in the summer you would hear someone getting struck by lightning on the beach. Yeah, if you're ever on the beach and you hear thunder, you need to get inside. There is a thing called lightning strikes out of the blue. You can see lightning through blue sky. It has happened. I have seen it. Just beware of that. So if you're ever on the beach and you hear thunder, lightning is much closer than you think, and you need to get to somewhere safe. Let's see. Oh, I hear fireworks outside. You guys got fireworks going on outside of your place? It's kind of interesting. But it is what it is. I just think it's funny when you walk into Publix right now and they're like, please, no smoking in or near the building. Sparklers inside. I want to know when Publix ever allowed smoking in the building. But that's just me. So let's see. Oh, in 2007, during Easter weekend in Florida, there was another reason to rejoice as the region made Guinness Books World Records. Why, you ask? At Cypress Gardens, an adventure park in Winter Haven, Florida, this is pre-Legoland, 9,753 children came with their parents and was part of a massive Easter egg hunt of over 500,000 eggs. That's insane. That's a lot of eggs. Before the arrival of Europeans in Florida, Native American tribes have been living in the region for several thousands of years. And I've talked to y'all about that in different parts of Florida I've talked about. Let's see. A couple more before I wrap this up. Central Florida is the lightning capital of the U.S. I believe that. Although apparently Clearwater, Florida is the main city. Apparently also Florida leads the state in tornadoes per year. That's not comforting. I did not know that. Let's see. June 1st to November 30th is hurricane season in Florida, and it is obviously the most hurricane-prone state in the U.S. They have cost the state billions in damages, especially Hurricane Andrew that hit in 1992 and led to a loss of $25 billion with a B damages. The only other one to be exceeding that was Hurricane Katrina. Florida has the highest percent of people over 65. I totally get that. There is no personal income tax in Florida, and there is a really, really small food tax, and it's only on stuff that is pre-made or junk food. If you buy a donut for 69 cents, it is going to be for 69 cents. There is no tax. I did not know that until the first time I bought one thing. I thought that was really strange. Let's see. St. Petersburg is affectionately called the Sunshine City, and that is because the sun is always out. And that is because the Guinness Book of World Records for the longest sunshine stretch in America. And that was back in 1967, and St. Petersburg had 768 days of sunny skies. That's actually kind of cool. I didn't realize that. Let's see, a couple more, and then I will tell you guys to have a good year. Florida is the world's leading producer of grapefruit, and it ranks second behind Brazil in other citrus. Did not know that. That's kind of cool. Wakulla Springs is the world's largest and deepest freshwater spring, and that is located near Tallahassee, Florida. Let's see. Port St. Lucie is undoubtedly Halloween wonderland that never fails to captivate imagination. It hosts countless haunted venues that will keep visitors intrigued, and it's actually even better than Boca Raton, West Palm Beach, and Fort Lauderdale. So if you're in the South Florida area on the East Coast, definitely check out Port St. Lucie if you're a Halloween lover. The only state embassy in Washington and the Florida House. Wait. Oh, there is only one state embassy in Washington, sorry. So you know how like countries have their embassies in Washington? And Florida is the only one that has one, and that's the Florida House. I read that super wrong. I'm so sorry, guys. Florida has more toll roads and bridges than any other state in the Union. Can't believe that. And it's all out of Tollando. Thank you, Orlando. Florida also has the world's largest occupied wooden structure, and that is the Bellevue Biltmore Resort and Spa. And I believe that's near Clearwater. All right, one more fun one. Mechanical refrigeration was invented in Florida in 1851 by Dr. John Gorey. Who knew? And he probably really needed it. And I'm going to leave you with one really interesting fact. I've already told you about the fun Florida man story. But in Florida, it is illegal to confine a pregnant pig to a cage. All right, guys. I'm going to leave you with that fun note about Florida. Thank you guys for tuning in. I hope that you guys have an amazingly wonderful 2022. I hope you guys continue to listen in. Thank you for all the reviews, likes, and just everything over the past year. Spotify does have a review thing now. If you have a second, I would appreciate it. Again, of course, Apple. Oh, shout out to, and I did not realize that you could just pick your username. So, Booty Fangs. Booty Fangs is a person. Thank you for your 5-star review on Apple. I definitely agree that the theme song is pretty awesome. So shout out to my husband for writing that. All right, guys. Check in next week. I'm probably going to do one of the requested topics. Thinking lighthouses. It's a pretty good bet. Don't forget to check in on Tuesdays to take part in the poll or question of the week, either on Instagram or Facebook. Also, look for fun memes, facts about Florida, videos, and random things on the Instagram and Facebook pages and groups. I hope that you all have just an absolutely magical 2022. I hope that it starts with a bang and continues on with nothing but good things. Thank you guys for listening, and that's your daily dose of sunshine.